Howdy, it's Jim Morado, and this is late November 2021. We are leaving, we're driving away from the Parker's Crossroads Visitor Center in Tennessee. Not too far from the Shiloh Battlefield National Park. This is in between Memphis and Tennessee, roughly. Like so much of Tennessee, this area is just packed with history, and it has a lot going on for it. And I just really enjoy driving around Tennessee. One bad thing about Tennessee, though, is, you get close to Nashville, you get close to Memphis. There's just so much to do, and sometimes it's kind of hard to pick and choose what you want to do. I know even getting around Nashville, there's Columbia, there's Franklin, a ton of Civil War history, and it's hard to kind of pick and choose what you want to do on a trip. And on this particular day, we went to Parker's Crossroads. We thought we would be in this area for a couple of hours, but the battlefield and the walking trails and the visitor center were so interesting, we ended up spending quite a bit more time here than we expected. But that was okay, and I still feel like we didn't quite get it all in. Anyway, just for what it's worth, this is about a 30-35 minute video that I put together, and we're going to be driving, trying to do all the major driving stops on the driving tour for Parker's Crossroads. And like I said, we did do one walking trail. I'm not going to put much of that in here, though. The walking trail that we did, which is at the first stop, was very long and interesting. And if you skip over that driving, or if you skip over that walking trail, you'll miss the historic marker about Nathan Bedford Forrest's famous quote, "Charge 'em both ways." So I'm glad we did that little walk. We got quite a bit in. It was a nice walk too, and we had we took our dog with us on this trip, so he enjoyed the walk, and I think he enjoyed being out on the battlefields. It was just a good time. There is kind of I guess a major road that runs through the battlefield. Yeah, and we're coming into stop number 1, which is Parker's Crossroads City Park, battle overview. And like I said, we're going to park, we're going to walk. I'm not going to keep the walking part in this video, but you can see, they've got some signs up, and oh yeah, you can get your driving tour brochure here too. But yeah, there's a pretty long walk you can do, and we enjoyed that quite a bit. We probably were here at this stop for over an hour doing the walking trail and reading the signs, and that was a lot of fun. I'll put up a separate video about the visitor center, but the visitor center that we just left is great. They have a small museum. They have a great gift shop with some interesting books, patches, postcards, and the kind of stuff I like to pick up. Really sweet, nice staff working there that's very knowledgeable about the battle and the participants. And as we go through here, I'll probably read a few signs to you here and there. Also going to use the driving tour brochure they gave me at the visitor center to let you know some stuff. Also got Blue and Gray magazine. And I can't say enough about how great Blue and Gray magazine was. Sadly, they don't produce issues anymore, but I do have the fall of 2003 issue that kind of gives a nice driving tour of Parker's Crossroads. And I'll probably mention a little bit about the battle as we go through there. And you do see us starting the walking part of the tour, but I'm not going to put the whole walking trail on this video. And I've always viewed Parker's Crossroads as just a battle where Forrest kind of comes in. He's his usual deceptive self, and kind of fools the enemy into thinking that he has a bigger force than he does. He charges and acts aggressive when he has a much smaller force than he does. Pretty much gets away with a whole lot of stuff that other military commanders and generals just didn't have the know-how to pull off. Anyway, it's a very interesting battle, and we're leaving stop number 1, we're heading to stop number 2. And just a little bit about that first stop from the brochure from the visitor center. Talks about you're at the North Loop Trail, It begins adjacent to the old Lexington-Huntington Road at the south edge of Parker's Crossroads City Park. The trail takes you past the site of John and Rebecca Parker's house and through the Parker Orchard, which was replanted in the spring of 2005. It features Union and Confederate artillery emplacements, an excellent view of the hill over which Colonel John Fuller's Ohio Brigade approached the battlefield. Yeah, so anyway, that's kind of the first stop. It gives an overview of the battle and what was going on in the Civil War up to that point. And allow me to read from a kiosk sign about General Forrest and what he did during this battle. It says, Nathan Bedford Forrest had no formal military education and was, as John Morton, Forrest's chief of artillery, put it, the negative of a West Pointer. He regarded maneuvers and exhaustive drill as unnecessary and cared nothing for conventional tactics. He disregarded Army regulations when he felt it best for his command to do so. Forrest's unconventional methods often brought him into conflict with his superior officers, but they found it hard to fault his success. Forrest had the ability to instantly grasp the strategic possibility of every situation. His supreme confidence in his ability and judgment allowed him to act without hesitation. His plans of battle were not chalked out on blackboards or drawn on charts. They were conceived on the instant and as instantaneously carried out. He struck as lightning strikes, and his tactics were as incalculable as the enemy. Forrest skillfully employed misinformation and bluff to spread exaggerated reports of the strength of his force. No device for creating this impression was too insignificant to be called into play. The constant beating of kettle drums, the lightning and tending of numerous fires, moving pieces of artillery from one point to another, the dismounting of cavalry and parading them as infantry, nothing was overlooked. Carefully instructed stragglers spread inflated reports. Elaborate shows of strength were staged for prisoners, who were then permitted to escape. The tactics were successful. Forrest's strength was consistently estimated to be much larger than it actually was. After the attack at Lexington on December 18, 1862, estimates put Forrest's force at from 10 to 20,000. Forrest never let his foe see that they had the advantage, never abandoned his aggressive stance. After Fuller's brigade arrived at Parker's Crossroads, Forrest ordered every man he saw to turn about and fight the enemy. When halted by Forrest, Sergeant Nat Baxter exclaimed, "General, I am entirely unarmed, have neither gun, pistol, nor sword." Forrest shouted, "That doesn't make any difference. Get in line and advance on the enemy with the rest." This is stop number 2. Hicksfield, early morning, December 31st, 1862. Union Colonel Cyrus L. Dunham's brigade marched south from Clarksburg, Tennessee, and then turned northwest from Parker's Crossroads to block the path of Forrest's troops. Dunham's move would ensnare the Confederates between his brigade and two pursuing Union brigades. Colonel John W. Fuller's 2nd Brigade, pursuing Forrest from the north, and Brigadier General Jeremiah C. Sullivan's 1st Brigade moving eastward from Jackson, Tennessee. The trap was sprung at Hicks Field, but it was Forrest who sprang it on Dunham, and soon had the Union forces on the defensive. The 50th Indiana Infantry Regiment, the 18th Illinois Mounted Infantry Regiment, and the 7th Wisconsin Artillery Battery marched up the road into the sights of Forrest's artillery. Sergeant Nat Baxter's opening shot dismounted one of the Union guns. The fire from Forrest's artillery and troopers was so fierce that the Union troops were forced to retreat towards the crossroads. Among the 40 men of the 7th Wisconsin Artillery engaged, 5 were killed, 16 were wounded, and 10 were captured. 3 cannon were disabled. And I'm sorry, I had a little weird audio cut there. I was reading some of that sign as we were at the scene, and a little bit of what I was saying got cut off. But yeah, that's stop number 2, and then we're about to drive to stop number 3. And I'm going to go ahead and read from and maybe paraphrase a little bit from the Blue and Gray issue. And by the way, if you've looked at my other videos, I am always singing the praises of Blue and Gray magazine. I know at Shiloh and at Corinth, Stones River, they sell reprints, or I guess kind of remade issues of Blue and Gray magazine that kind of serve as battlefield guides when you go to those parks. And pick those up every time you see them. If they're $6, $7, $8, $9, don't worry about the price. They're worth it. And in fact, I've actually overpaid for back issues online. I've been picking up back issues as much as I can. If you've got some old back issues you want to send to me, please send them my way. I will take them. But it's a great magazine, and I would like to see more battlefields reprint the old Blue and Gray magazines and sell them. They're just the best resource when you're touring a battlefield. Again, to kind of tell you a little bit of what Blue and Gray magazine has to say about stop number 3 that we're driving to. It says, near the post office, your view is going to be, you're going to be looking towards the bank, which sits at the location of the wartime Crossroads. The old building immediately west of the post office sits near the site of the Parker House. The family's orchard was behind the house and extended to behind the present post office. In this area, behind Forrest's lines, many of his men, fighting dismounted, had left their horses in the charge of designated horse holders. Union Colonel Fuller wrote of his brigade's passage over the Parkers' property. Some hundreds of the enemy, who had dismounted and had been fighting as infantry, had left their horses in the orchard and yard near Parker's house. These horses were the first trophies which fell into our hands, and more than 300 of their riders, thus rendered unable to get away, surrendered themselves as prisoners. Soon after the arrival of Fuller's brigade, his artillery was brought forward across Parker's property and went into battery in the Reverend's front yard. This met with the 78-year-old Parker's disapproval, who feared his home would be damaged by Confederate counter-battery fire. The Parker family had handed down a story of the Reverend's encounter with a Union battery officer. Parker explained that he was a Union man, a Republican, and had voted for Lincoln, but insisted that the officer move his gun from the yard. "What's more important, the Union or your house?" the officer demanded. Parker blurted, "My house." The incident instantly converted Reverend Parker from a Unionist to a rebel. And then there's further evidence of Parker's political conversion will be given at tour stop number 4. Yeah, I wanted to read that because, well, the brochure from the visitor center and the marker when you pull into the post office are a little confusing. I got a little confused as I was looking around when we get to stop number 3, so I wanted to utilize Blue and Gray magazine and just oh yeah, featuring articles by Ed Barse. So yeah, it's probably about the best source of information you can get. But again, yes, that was from Blue and Gray magazine. I definitely want to credit them and encourage you to buy any of their reprinted issues when you see them. It's good stuff. And also later on when we get to the cemetery, Blue and Gray magazine helped me identify a couple of tombstones. And I'll get to that later, I guess, but I just definitely want to give a huge tip of my hat and a lot of credit to Blue and Gray magazine. Great magazine to have when you're touring a battlefield. Yeah, so you can kind of see what they were talking about. We're about to pull in over by that post office. Yeah, let's get a little parking lot here. So yeah, this area kind of through here is what we were just talking about. And again, it's still a battlefield. You're still kind of out in the country. Just kind of a pleasant drive and a nice area to do a battlefield tour. And I'm so sorry about my window. My dog had his nose up to the window through part of our trip, and so yeah, there's a little smudge on my window. I apologize.
When Reverend John Parker, a Union sympathizer, demanded that Union artillerists remove their cannon from his yard.
Oh yeah, okay. I'm sorry. I pulled into the wrong spot there at first. Yeah, there's the historic marker. You see the post office right there in front of us.
It was in the Parker Orchard, which has been reestablished.
You get a rough idea of what's going on. But yeah, we are now at stop number 3. There's the historic marker. I wanted to say too that this is such a great area. It's close to Shiloh. I keep forgetting that it's not that far from the Nathan Bedford Forest State Park, the Johnsonville State Park. I want to say they're maybe an hour or so north of here. And I've been to those before. I didn't videotape the days I went, but those are great parks that do a good job of interpreting the Civil War, and great visitor centers, great staff, just a great area of Tennessee. And of course, you're not that far from Land Between the Lakes, one of my favorite, just one of my favorite spots to go to growing up. And I have put some other videos up, at least one anyway, of Land Between the Lakes. It's one of my early videos I put up. I had a bison put its head on the hood of my car and just kind of rested there for a while. Yeah, but right now we're going to drive to stop number 4. Stop number 4, Jones Cemetery and the Old Well, graves of John Parker and his wife Rebecca. And it mentions that the Confederate cavalry stopped at this well to water their horses and refill their canteens. It's we actually ended up spending some time at this little cemetery. I liked it a lot. Very tranquil, very historic. Had some gorgeous markers. But yeah, we're going into the cemetery. And I believe I actually read from one of the markers once we got up here. There was a really nice marker kind of pointing stuff out to us. Stop number 4. We're at the Jones Cemetery and the Old Dug Well. As the battle moved from Hicksfield through the Crossroads, Forrest's troops began to move east, roughly along the Wildersville Road. Here near Jones Cemetery, Confederate soldiers watered their horses and filled their canteens at an old dug well located in front of this marker. In Jones Cemetery are the graves of Reverend John A. Parker and his wife Rebecca. Their graves lie north and south, while others lie east and west. According to the family history of Tom Parker, great-great-grandson of John Parker, and noted in the official records, the Reverend was angered when Union cannon were placed in his yard, thus inviting Confederate counter battery fire. He had been a Unionist, but became further incensed at the Union battery commander's refusal to move, and so swung his allegiance to the Confederacy. When Parker died in 1864, his deathbed wish was to be buried with my feet to the north, my head to the south, so that when the angel Gabriel sounded his trumpet, I can rise and kick the Yankees back north. And right down there is the well. Tennessee State Veteran Cemetery up there at Parker's Crossroads. There's the well. And we'll probably take a quick drive through the cemetery. And here are the Parker tombstones, facing the wrong direction. And this is a beautiful cemetery, as all cemeteries are, but there are some really interesting stones right here too. And if you drive out here, let me just do a little pan of the whole cemetery. We had to drive around a couple times before we found these two stones. You don't exactly see them from the road. You got to get out a little bit. But yeah, and like I said, other interesting stones. A little child Saw a real beautiful one over here a moment ago. Yeah. Just spectacular. More Parker family. Yeah, right over there's the well. There's the main entrance to the cemetery. I guess if you come into the cemetery, you would want to, well, I guess turn right and take that until you see the steps coming up. Take those steps up and you'll find the Parker stones. Yeah, and we're leaving the cemetery now. That just was a really, really pleasant stop. And we're heading to stop number 5 now. And just quickly, I wanted to mention some of the other stuff we did on this trip really quick because there's so much in this area. We ended up going to Shiloh. We did a Shiloh battlefield tour with Larry DeBerry. And if you Google him online, it's Larry and DeBerry, DeBerry. He does Shiloh tours. He has a little museum, which is just a few miles away from the Shiloh Visitor Center. Oh, there's the well. We just passed the well again. He's got a great museum. He has very reasonable prices if you want to hire him for a battlefield tour. And we hired him for 3 hours. He gave us much more than that. And we had a great time with him. He gave us the whole overview of Shiloh, which I've read up on quite a bit. But he also gave us, some family stories. He's lived there all of his life. And his family has lived there all their life, too. In fact, many of his family members were there at the time of the battle, his ancestors. And he has some great stories. And I'll probably put up a video about that tour, minus his commentary. I feel like that's kind of his to own. But I'll put up a little video just about our battlefield tour. But yeah, he took us to all the sites at Shiloh you want to see, and then gave us some kind of lesser-known side stories. One thing about a battle, or about a tour of a battlefield, a good guide will tell you the whole story and make you feel like you know it, and he'll also throw some nuggets in that'll make you want to learn some more. And Larry definitely did that. He threw some stuff at me that made me want to do a little more research on some of the lesser-known stories of Shiloh. And I just wanted to put that quick plug in for him. Just a great guy, and I really admire what he's doing. And if you're going to be in this area, go hire him for a battlefield tour. We also went to Corinth and checked out their great visitor center. Did a little bit of a driving tour there that was somewhat unplanned, and I wasn't prepared for it, but we still had a really good time. We stayed at Pickwick Landing State Park Lodge, which is maybe a 10-minute, 15-minute drive from Shiloh, and that's a great lodge. If you're going to be in this area, I don't know why you would stay anywhere else. It was just so scenic, so perfect. Super friendly staff there. We ordered from their restaurant dinner every night, and they had really high quality food. As far as state park lodges go, it was definitely one of the best ones we've ever stayed at, and I can't recommend them enough. And I just wanted to mention that really quick. We just had a great time in this western part of Tennessee, and there's so much more that we could have done. I've been sort of in this area before. Heck, you've got the Patsy Cline. Her site where the plane crashed is not too horribly far from here either. Depending on how much time you have, there's just so much to see, and there's all these great little towns just peppered throughout Tennessee. Also, at the visitor center, at the Parker's Crossroads Visitor Center, I was unaware of this, but the staff informed me that Nathan Bedford Forrest has been reburied. He was taken out of Memphis. I'm sure you know that there was the controversy with his monument which was where he was buried, and they removed him, and he has been taken to he was taken to Elm Springs in Columbia, Tennessee, and buried there. And I've been there before. They have a wonderful that's the Sons of the Confederate Veterans kind of museum headquarter place. They have a great museum there, and yeah, he from what I understand was reburied there, which I think will be a a good place for him. But I was unaware of that, and yeah, so they informed me of that at the visitor center. And we've now come to stop 5 on the driving tour, stop 5, and from the brochure, a surprise attack. Dunham's force is divided. While Dunham's men were behind the split rail fence, part of Forrest's force worked their way around the Union rear using the hollow in front of U.S. cover. In a surprise attack, they captured the Union wagon train. Union infantry turned and charged the Confederates, who melted into the woods. So yeah, that happened right here, and just doing a quick pan around. Really pretty area here. Yeah, so we're driving on now to stop number 6. Stop number 6 on the driving tour. And while we're driving there, I'll just read a little bit from the brochure they gave us at the visitor center. The results of Forrest's first West Tennessee raid. Forrest cavalry rode 300 miles through rain, sleet, and snow during the raid, averaging 20 miles per day. They destroyed 50 bridges on the Mobile and Ohio Railroad, burned its trestles, and tore up its rails. The Confederates inflicted nearly 2,500 Union casualties in killed, wounded, and captured. They disabled and captured 10 Union artillery pieces and carried off 5 pieces of artillery, 6 caissons with their horses, 60 wagons, 4 ambulances, and over 1 million rounds of ammunition. Forrest captured more than 1,200 Union soldiers and severed General Grant's railway communications with Columbus, Kentucky. Grant withdrew from Grenada, Mississippi, to Memphis, Tennessee as a result of Forrest's West Tennessee campaign and General Earl Van Dorn's raid on Holly Springs. Confederate General Pemberton was able to shift his troops to defeat General William T. Sherman's attack at the Chickasaw Bluffs near Vicksburg in late December 1862. Vicksburg remained in Confederate control for another 6 months. Yeah, Forrest was absolutely very effective on what he did through here. And of course, if you read up on Forrest and the Confederacy at this point, Forrest was there were some people he wasn't getting along with, and frequently, I mean, you can kind of go back and see that he was picking up on things some of his superior officers were not picking up on. And that includes Beauregard, Bragg, Earl Van Doren. He had conflict with a lot of people. And just interesting to read about that stuff. But we're at stop number 6 now. Stop number 6. And this is stop number 6. There's a monument or a marker here, Red Mound. During the second quarter of the 19th century, on the hill immediately west of this marker was the site of the community of Red Mound, which according to oral tradition was named for Red Mountain, North Carolina, from where many of the early settlers came. In 1837, a post office was established here with Samuel S. Parker as postmaster. This geographic location marks the site of the Battle of Parker's Crossroads, fought December 31st, 1862. And then over here, Union Colonel Dunham's brigade tried to silence Forrest cannon by a frontal assault into the face of canister and rifle fire. The Confederates repulsed the attack, inflicting heavy casualties. Forrest's troopers then attacked the Union battle line from the front, flank, and rear. Dunham ordered the brigade to face about and charge the attackers coming at the rear. Only part of his brigade heard the command because the deafening cannonade and rolling volleys of musketry. Forest troopers faded south to a line east of this spot and then surrounded Dunham's southward charging group. The remnants of Dunham's brigade, who did not hear their commander's call, stayed at the split rail fence line, but they too soon waved white flags in surrender. And we're leaving stop number 6. I assume Red Mound was over here on the right because it's kind of up on a mound, but I'm not real sure. And we're gonna head on to stop number 7, which, according to the brochure from the visitor center, is the last stop on the driving tour. And just before we get there, I'll go ahead and read it to you. The split rail fence, the heart of the battlefield. Unrelenting Confederate artillery fire pushed the Union forces to a split rail fence, reconstructed here. Shells from Forest artillery struck the brittle rails, creating deadly shrapnel. The Union troops began to show flags of truce. Just as Colonel Fuller reached the battlefield, the Union dead were buried in a small plot near the east end of the Union line. In 1867, the remains were reinterred to the National Cemetery in Corinth, Mississippi. The South Loop walking trail begins at the kiosk. I did a little bit of the walking trail, not much. And again, I kind of want to go back to do the to complete that trail and the other trail that we missed, because there's just so much to see and do here. Also, I feel like we probably got more from that first walking trail loop that we did at the beginning than the driving part of the trail. I enjoyed them both quite a bit, but the walking trail at the beginning really just had a lot of pop, and was just a lot of fun and interesting. Oh, I wanted to mention too, I meant to say this earlier when I was talking about the reinterment of Nathan Bedford Forrest. They also moved his wife Mary to be with him at Elm Springs, and just wanted to mention that. Also, from where we're about to go, stop number 7. Let me find it. There was there's a marker I wanted to read real quick. The old split rail fence, December 31st, 1862. At approximately 11 a.m., Colonel Dunham's brigade positioned themselves behind a split rail fence located a few feet behind this area, running east and west to the Lexington-Huntington Road. By afternoon, and under fire at this position for 2 hours, many of the men were killed or wounded by rails splintered by the Confederate shelling. Private Joseph Holtz, 50th Indiana, later wrote his wife, "A shell hit the fence near which I stood, and the rail struck me down." Showing great courage, Dunham's men unsuccessfully charged out into the crossfire, coming from the Confederate encirclement located on the Sandy Rise to the northeast, north, and northwest. Confederate Lieutenant Colonel Alonzo Napier led a counterattack on the Union left flank and fell mortally wounded while waving his men on from atop the fence. On the following morning, the Union commander ordered that Union troops killed during the previous day's fight be buried on the knoll near the east end of the Union line. Recent archaeological excavations confirmed the location of a number of grave sites, and I just think that is darn fascinating. Yeah, and you come out, there's a little walkway in the cabin there. Again, it looked like another great loop to take. We had really gone over our allotted time on this driving tour, though, so we didn't have a whole lot of time to do another walking trail, but I really appreciated what they've got going on here. They've done just a great job of keeping this place up, and having a lot of signs around to kind of explain what was going on. And I do know, as I look through my Blue and Gray magazine, there were a couple of other sites I could have stopped at, and I feel like there was so much more to this battle. Just more about it. But yeah, if you want to learn more about it, go out and do a battlefield tour, pick up the old Blue and Gray magazine. Yeah, anyway, yeah, so I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you enjoyed driving around Parker's Crossroads with me. Thanks.